Alright, what's up guys? MainManSWE here, and I'm joined by Mr. Maxi, LD Maxi. You wanna say hello, Maxi?
Yeah, hi guys, what's up?
Hi! I was gonna have him on webcam, but unfortunately, yeah, technology came in the way. But this man is very, very dear to my heart. He left my life for what, 12 years or something?
Yeah, way too long, way too long.
Yeah, but
I was stalking you. I was looking at you, seeing your progress and everything. So it's all right.
yeah, at least you did that. Cool.
Yeah.
But this is very special to me because LD Maxi, David here, was the guy who introduced me to the Tekken world. I basically was sitting at home with my brother playing, well, basically Tekken 4 arcade battle versus mode. I had no idea about what's an EVGF, what's a wave dash, what's the Tekken community. I played my brothers and some friends, you know, at school. That was Tekken to me. And then I met Maxi, and he introduced me to all the wonders of the Tekken community. And he helped so many other people. So I felt like maybe you want to start by just talking about just your passion in like helping the Tekken community, because I feel like all the Tekken veterans know who you are.
Yeah, they're better. Yeah, what can I say? Like, just like you, I started playing with my brother at home a long time ago, like at Tekken 3, Tekken Tag, around there. And I just felt completely in love with the game, you know, like so many of us do. And and yeah, kind of like you, I was reaching out, trying to find new people and friends to play with, and I wasn't like gonna wait for people, so I decided to like build a whole community in Sweden, and with friends, of course. I didn't do it alone, but yeah. So when you contacted me and we got in touch, I was like, hell yeah, let's meet up and see what we can make happen, you know?
Yeah, I gotta mention that what I did was, I just at home Googled, this was way back in 2004, or yeah, I think it was 2004. I just Googled Tekken Stockholm because I wanted to meet other Tekken players, and I ended up on a forum from it was called Dragon's Lair, basically a place where you could meet people who played board games mostly, but there was a small Tekken scene there with like 1 or 2 arcade cabinets, and I posted on the forums, and I was super cocky. I was like, alright guys, I want to meet the Tekken hotshots, are there any? And then Mr. Maxi here responded.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, we were, at that time we were like really trying to build our community, and we were like, whenever someone was like, yeah, I like Tekken, we were like, come on over, and we invited them to our home and just showed them everything and tried to see if the person had potential and the will to keep playing and all that stuff. So yeah, it was just great when we got in touch.
You showed me like combo videos for the first time. I was blown away. That started my combo video career, you know, and just the fact that I played Kazuya back then, and I did 1-2-2. That was my go-to move, basically. And I saw David play, or Maxi play Mishima's, and he would wave dash, and I was like, what is that even? But it looks so cool. And he would do the hell sweep mix up with twin pistons. And it was so funny when I asked him, I was like, the glorious Demon Godfist. That was Kazuya's old forward 1+2. It's, I mean, I know now that it's completely useless, but to me back then it was like the hypest move. It was the best move. I mean, just look at the name of it, look at the animation, you know. To me it was the best move. And I asked David, I was like, but isn't this the go-to move? And David was like, that's fucking useless. And you broke my heart, man. You broke my heart.
That's why we didn't talk for 12 years, right?
Yeah, exactly. But that was me, like, it was such a cold shower, but an amazing experience at the same time, because it took like 2 hours of you showing me videos, but then I would never look at Tekken the same way again.
Yeah, it's so different when you're playing Tekken alone, and then when you start interacting with other people that have more experience. It's like it's like your mind kind of expands, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
Especially in those days when we didn't really have the internet wasn't really as effective as it is now. Now you can just go to Twitch or YouTube or whatever, but in those days you kind of had to like know where to download the videos, and it was very different.
Exactly. Like, we're talking about the age before YouTube. YouTube was released in 2005, and it took many years for that platform to become the YouTube we take for granted today. It used to be much worse. Much worse. Like, very limited video length, quality was always garbage. The platform wasn't as big, you wouldn't get reach as many people. But please just take us through like your road to actually creating some form of media platform for the Tekken community. Like, your FTP server was basically the go-to place for Tekken media.
Right. Yeah, so do you want the short version or the long version? I could talk about this for days or for 5 minutes.
Yeah, we have so much to talk about, so give us like the quick run through of it, like why you set it up and what it meant for the Tekken scene.
Okay, so when I started playing, I was like really loved Tekken, and when I found my first video of Tekken and I saw people that were so much better than me, that was like magic to me. I could see that this was the shortcut for me to become better, right? So I just became so obsessed with the videos.
Yeah.
And my friend, who was a bit more technical, he worked as a like web consultant. He was really into Tekken as well, and we used to play a lot. So he was like, yeah, you should set up an FTP. And I was like, yeah, what is that? And actually, a lot of people probably don't know about it.
Exactly. We're so old.
Yeah, it's kind of like a Dropbox, I would say.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a Dropbox, but you have to kind of log in a certain way, and everyone can upload, and everyone can download, but only I can delete videos. So
right.
So instead of me having to like look everywhere for all the videos, people started uploading them to me, which I thought was great. And at the same time, I started to realize how much I enjoyed just serving this community. It was like I was really surprised actually that giving something would be so fun, you know?
Yeah, and rewarding.
Yeah, exactly. So I did that for a couple of years, and a lot of different things happened which made the FTP become very big, but mostly it was because of my contacts with Korean Tekken administrators, people that had access to exclusive material from Korea. So
yeah.
So all of a sudden, everyone on Tekken Saibatsu and like the West had access to all these Korean Tekken videos that had been shut off from before.
Exactly, because as mysterious as the Korean scene can still seem today, I mean, back then you guys knew basically nothing about them.
Yeah, like mostly it was like handheld videos that emerged from somewhere, and you had to know the person that had them, and you would see some videos from tournaments, and it was kind of ridiculous. Like people, like Koreans showed up at tournaments and showed how to wave dash and while standing cancel and do all sorts of stuff, and people had never seen this before until like they entered the tournament. So it was like they were operating in the dark, you know?
Yeah. So your FTP is where I uploaded my first combo video, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I just want to stress this to the audience, the people listening now. His FTP was where every single person in the Tekken community in the West, where they watched Tekken. This was before YouTube. Maxi's FTP was the collection of the hype Tekken clips, you know, and the very early combo videos that everyone watched. And everyone commented on them on Tekken Saibatsu. There was no like YouTube commentary field or anything. It was, it's so different, the community today.
Yeah. We did have a Mirk channel. Do you remember that? Mirk.
Oh, right, yes.
IRC. I don't know if people still use that, but it's kind of like, yeah, like Discord, but in the old days.
Oh, it was like Discord.
Yeah, well, it's a kind of weird comparison, but I don't know what else would be a better comparison.
Yeah, I really barely used Mirk, but I hear it mentioned a lot, like in the legacy gaming days, it was the go-to form of communication.
Yeah, I can imagine that people still use it. Like, it's kind of nerdy, but it probably has its uses, but I haven't used it for years and years. So yeah, so that was kind of like the first part of my video sharing legacy, you want to call it, the FTP.
Yeah.
And then I had the fortune enough to move to Korea for 2 years. So I actually lived in Seoul for 2 years, for those of you that don't know. So now I'm just watching you do a lot of fun stuff on camera and trying to concentrate at things.
Okay. Sorry, I got a bit donation there, so...
Just tell me next time and I'll close my eyes.
Yeah, exactly. Don't want to watch me do my corny shit. I mean, everyone just loses concentration.
No, I was really lucky because this was before streaming. So it meant that all the Koreans were still playing at the arcade, but pretty much no one was uploading the matches. And I also came to Korea just when Tekken Crash was starting, which was a televised Tekken tournament that was ongoing for like 9 seasons or something. Like,
yeah, and Tekken Crash was huge in Korea, right?
Yeah, everywhere. Like I'd say it still is the biggest. It's kind of like Tekken World Tour, but in a way it's more hype, I'd say.
Yeah, I mean, I've had the opportunity to play, the pleasure of talking to JDCR a couple of times, and he made it very clear to me that Tekken Crash was like much bigger than the tournaments we saw after.
Yeah, of course. Tekken Crash was like the dream come true for the Koreans, you know?
Yeah, but I think a lot of people watching now might not even have seen Tekken Crash, because you needed to be active during the Tekken 6 days.
Yeah, if I was you and I wanted to learn more about Tekken or just enjoy like the best Tekken tournament ever, just go Google and go for YouTube and look at all the Tekken Crash matches. Like,
yeah.
But it's a bit sad because there's like so much history and so much stuff that went on in the background. And of course there's no English commentary either. So
yeah.
It's kind of like I was so lucky to be there, you know. I got the full Tekken Crash experience, you know. And actually, I'll say this: I got even, in some ways, even a better experience than the Koreans, because like one day I would sit with me and Nin and Holman and like the monsters, and they were preparing, and I would listen to what they were planning against some other team. And then the next day I was with that team and I was listening to how they thought that they would be counteracted and everything. So I got like the two sides and I really had to like bite my lip all the time not to like share any strategies in any one way or another, you know.
Ah, okay. But even though the commentary is not in English, Nin is a figure a lot of people know from the Korean Tekken scene. Legendary Steve player. Doesn't play a whole lot these days. I thought maybe you wanted to talk a bit about his commentary during the Tekken Crash, and maybe if you want to get into already like the Korean mindset regarding Tekken. I know we might be jumping from one topic to something completely different here, but if you just want to briefly touch upon it, because I found it really fascinating once you started giving me a brief idea of how various Korean top players saw the game.
Yeah, of course. Like, that is also a thing that you know, when I came back from Korea, I was like, wow, I have like so much knowledge now and stuff I've learned and that really needs to be shared. So I was
you know what, yeah, exactly. We should start with like, why did you go to Korea? How long were you there? What was the mission?
Yeah, so the mission was, I kind of realized that
because this is after the FTP, right? Or during?
Yeah, no, this was after.
Right.
So it was, YouTube had started and people had started uploading some videos, but the audio was horrible, and it was, I kind of felt it wasn't personal. Like, it was kind of like watching gameplay, but you couldn't see the people, you couldn't hear anything. Like, it was just pure gameplay.
Yeah.
And I thought, like, man, I just want the cam to zoom out and look around in the arcade and get some people to talk and stuff like that, you know, get a more like personal experience of what it's like to play in an arcade.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people forget that as well. Like, they look at gameplay videos and they don't get it, that you can't hear anything in the arcade. Like, you can't hear the attacks or anything because the noise is so loud, you know. And whenever someone is playing at the arcade, they're actually playing on a new controller, like every single time. So people have to remember that they're so consecutive, like, so how do you say, consistent, even though they're playing on a new controller for every single match, for every single set at least, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, well, anyway, so I just decided that I wanted to go all out, which meant like doing everything I wanted to do when it came to my passion, which was Tekken. So in the past, when I was like, yeah, it would be fun to go to Korea someday, I just took away that it would be, you know, and I just like, let's do it. So I went there first for 3 weeks, and then I just fell in love with it completely. I became so good friends with the players, and they were so open and welcoming, and like, it was just an amazing experience for 3 weeks. So we actually went on a road trip together to a tournament in Busan, which is another city in the south of Korea. And it was just like seeing all these players prepare, and you know, like all these players just going there, and then the whole dinner thing after. You know, it was like, it was too good. It was too good. So I was like so close to calling my boss and just quitting over the phone, but I realized that wouldn't work very well.
But so, the Korean scene was very welcoming.
Yes, like I have traveled a lot, you know, and a lot of communities are as welcoming as they can be, but you gotta remember, like, there are so many players, and like, it's not just the Korean Tekken community, it's Koreans in general. Like, you can be sitting on the subway and people start talking with you and just, you know, having fun with you. Like, it kind of feels like everyone's drunk all the time, you know, but in a good way.
Yeah. Well, it was interesting, you told me when we talked earlier that you went to Green Arcade, this mythical place everyone had heard about, but you had no idea what to expect. Westerners hadn't really started traveling there, as they would start doing shortly after that. And you could serve as sort of a guide to introduce people to the place. And you told me that immediately in the arcade you would see like the very best players.
Yeah, that was because I had been to Tokyo and another city in Japan at the time, and my experience there was that there was so many arcades, and you were really lucky if you could see one top player.
Yeah,
it was like you just played against the beginners all the time, and you beat everyone pretty much, you know. It's because they have so many players in Tokyo, you know, it's like hundreds of thousands pretty much. Everyone knows how to play some Tekken. So I was kind of like expecting when I went to Korea that, yeah, maybe there will be some top players in Green Arcade, and maybe they will come in once in a while, and most people probably play in their own local arcade. And I knew I had seen a lot of matches, and I knew that there was like always top players playing, but I didn't realize that all the top players were in Green Arcade, at least in Seoul.
Yeah.
It's like this huge difference between Green Arcade and any other arcade at the time I came there. Then it changed a bit, but yeah, at that time it was like that.
Okay. So what did you do in Korea during those years? You did something that helped the community quite a lot at the early days of YouTube. So if you just want to get into that.
Yeah, of course, gladly. So so the way I managed to organize everything in my life so I could move there was that I was gonna study long distance. So in that way I could support because as you know, in Sweden you get paid to study. So
yeah.
So that way I could live there and study at the same time. So my first idea when I came there was like, oh, I'm gonna spend so much time studying, and then I'm just gonna play some Tekken for fun, and I'm mostly gonna enjoy Korea, you know. Yeah, it's kind of fun reading the chat there at the same time. Yeah, pay to study what? Pay to study my high school. I think it's considered a high school degree, you know.
Yeah, and to clarify, it's mostly loans. You get you can take loans, and that acts as a sort of salary or compensation for studying. But you do get some money for free, but most of it is a loan. But you could actually survive with only the free money there in Korea, right?
Yeah, I got like about $800-900 or something a month, which is more than enough in Korea. It was actually more than enough for me to party every day.
Ah, nice.
Yeah, it's crazy. So yeah, so the thing is, when I came there, I thought, oh, I'm gonna spend so much time studying, but it wasn't like that at all. I had so much time to just go to the arcade and just have fun, and I had so much time that I decided to start recording the matches at Green Arcade. Because as you know, I really love watching videos, and I knew that people would love to see this. And yeah, that thing just kind of took off, and the YouTube channel got very big at the time, you know?
Yeah, it was.
And it's kind of interesting because at the time I think it was one of the biggest YouTube channels for Tekken. But when I compare it now with other channels, it's crazy. Like, channels are so big now. So I had only like 3,000 subscribers or something, but now.
Yeah, but it was huge at the time. I mean, your channel was bigger than mine in those days.
Yeah.
You had one of the biggest.
Yeah. I don't know how many people unsubscribed when I stopped uploading, but that was some time ago.
Yeah. But yeah, I just want to stress here that for those of you who don't know, during the Tekken 4, Tekken 5 era, Max's FTP was where all the Tekken media was. And then he kind of reinvented himself, went to Korea, started his YouTube when YouTube was very new. He started uploading, I mean, was it almost daily?
In the
many videos per week, uploading death matches between the top Koreans. And this was the first time us Westerners and everyone else in the world got a good bit of insight into how Koreans played the game.
Yeah, there were some other channels, I mean, but I don't think anyone had ever seen the arcade aspect of it, you know, like, because I didn't only shoot the actual matches, I shot the players, like their reactions, and I shot like different videos on how to find the arcades and interviews and all sorts of stuff, you know.
Yeah.
And also it was because of my connections with Aris and Rip, I invited them to do commentary on the videos.
Right.
So we actually got like American commentary on Korean videos, which was awesome, I think. And really entertaining. I just loved watching that.
That's awesome. So from here, if you could just talk about the different Korean players, the top Koreans, their mindset. Like, in the West, we're very obsessed with frames. You know, the trademark of a great Tekken player is that he knows each and every frame in the game. You know, he's like an encyclopedia when it comes to Tekken. You know, but in Korea, it seems like they had a different opinion on what constitutes a great player.
Yeah, and not only like in Korea, but from player to player, you know. I would definitely agree with what your picture of it. That usually in the West, or at least in Europe, from my experience, is that you kind of start playing the game and you want to learn your character, and then you want to learn more about your character, and then you want to learn even more about your character, and it's kind of like after a while you're spending so much time to learn something that's not really actually helping you know. When I came to the Korean Tekken scene, it was very different. It was very, very focused on stuff that I had never even thought about, like, for instance, the format. So the format is the first thing you focus on. Like, what is the format? Like, are you playing in a tournament? Are you playing in a deathmatch? Are you playing a casual? Are you playing first to 3 or first to 5?
Because that's very different to the Koreans, right?
Yeah, for them it's like a completely new game for every different format.
Exactly. If you're playing in a tournament, a best of 3, that's a completely different game altogether than a deathmatch.
Definitely, yeah, and I would say it's even it's completely different than first to 5. It's like they make such a huge distinction here, you know. So
exactly.
Yeah. So that was like the first. Because when I came to Green Arcade, I wasn't the guy that was, you know, by myself shutting up, you know. I was talking with a lot of, I became really good friends with a lot of top players and got really close to them, you know. Actually started like kind of living at their places and stuff like that, you know. So yeah. I kind of had a deal with Rain, which was a very, very famous player if you don't know. That I would teach him English if he taught me Tekken. So I think his English improved more than my Tekken.
I mean, Rain was a legendary Tekken player, and now most people have no idea who he is.
That's just sad. Like, Rain yeah, I think his style is like still is the most entertaining to watch, I think.
He was a very creative player.
Yeah, and it just looked so fluently when he played. It looked, yeah, it was really, I really enjoyed watching him play and talking with him so much about Tekken and all that stuff, you know.
Could you please go into the different mentalities or gameplay styles, you know, like wild style, yeah. Controlled, crazy? Yeah,
of course. So, so in the West, we usually make this distinction between aggressive and defensive, or yeah, like pitbull or turtle, you know.
Exactly.
So this is kind of like when we're analyzing someone or preparing before a tournament or something like that. This is kind of one of the main factors for us. Like, we think, oh, is he a defensive player or an aggressive player, you know? And yeah. they do this as well, but they focus more on if the player uses specific patterns or not. So usually we think of patterns as being something very negative, but that's not the case. There's a lot of patterns that are actually really good in Tekken that people do a lot, like basic jab, like 1-1-2, 1 down 4, you know, stuff like that. And like some players, they have this kind of like mentality that there are some moves that are completely off limits. Like, you will never see Knee do a snake edge. Like, if he does that, it's a mistake, you know. It's kind of like a principle. He's not gonna use that, you know.
Yeah.
So, but the other players, they're more open to using anything and everything, and they're more creative. You could call it more creative. I'm not sure if that's a fair assessment, but it's more wild, you know. You don't really know what to expect when you play them, and it's a bit harder to prepare against them, you know.
Exactly. And so, this is where opinions went different ways in the Korean scene, where you told me that some top players really respect original players with very creative takes on different characters, rather than the people who are very, very frame oriented, you know, and would never be caught doing a snake edge, you know.
Yeah.
It varied quite a bit, right?
Yeah. I'm not sure if I would talk about frames here, because they can be used like for both the unpredictable players and the more predictable players. But yeah, there was definitely this difference. Like some people completely detested what they called perfect style, and
that was the knee plays perfect style, right?
Yeah, that's like the best example, I would say. And then you have a player like JDCR. He's also, people would consider him perfect style, kind of like that.
This is so interesting because I did an interview with Mr. JDCR a while ago, and he said that I asked him about knee, and he said knee is the definition of perfect style. He didn't use the words perfect style, but he said that knee knows the game inside out. Every single frame data there is to know, he knows, and he wants to stay as safe as possible. Perfect movement, and will never ever do a move that's considered unsafe, basically, or too unsafe.
Right.
And it sounded to me like JDCR meant that JDCR doesn't see himself as that type of player, but I guess we would see JDCR as a perfect style player.
Yeah, more or less. Like in if Knee is playing in a tournament, he's playing much more perfect style, you know. But when he's playing in deathmatch, he's way more aggressive, like completely different player. If you've seen his deathmatches, he wants to win fast, you know, because he's got a lot of characters to rank up.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Speedballs for the win is asking, so is perfect style ideal for tournament really? No, that depends. It's more kind of like, just like some people feel more comfortable playing defensive and others feel more comfortable playing aggressive. It's kind of like everyone has their own style, and maybe it's better for them to pick a character that suits that natural style they have, and then just hope that the character is, fits well in the tournament ecosystem. That's what I would say. But yeah, I don't know. Like there was, in those days there was this guy named Sunchip that was really famous too, and he's like the definition of this unpredictable style. That he wasn't even, he didn't even know himself what he was doing pretty much. And he would do really well against a lot of players, but he would get completely destroyed against others, you know.
That's super interesting. And I also want to get into, you know, that whole math geometry prism thingy, that way of looking at the game and not frames.
Yeah, that is really like high level. It's even hard to describe that, you know. So
exactly, but it was so interesting. I'd never heard anyone mention such an outlook on Tekken. So you don't have to go into huge detail or who said it, but just the basic idea is very interesting.
Yeah, no, I don't think he would mind me telling you. So it's Knee. So I don't remember why. Yeah, actually, we were just talking, and he was like, "Yeah, come over to my place, and I'll teach you some Tekken."
So wait, this was Knee or Nin?
Knee.
Knee, okay.
Yeah. So I was like, "Yeah, let's do it." So I went to his place, and you could tell that man had played a lot of Tekken there. Like you could just feel it in the air that this was a kind of Tekken palace.
Lots of sweaty arcade sticks.
No, not like that. I can't really describe it. It was like just like when he sat down to play some Tekken in his room, you could tell that this guy had done that before. Okay. So yeah, the Koreans are funny. They usually just sit on the floor when they're playing, you know?
Okay.
Yeah. So I had talked with a lot of top players there about how they looked at Tekken, and they all had their kind of like unique way of looking at it. And every time they were talking to me, I could kind of like instantly understand the concept of what the whole idea was behind the game, you know? So for instance, when I was talking with Nin, then Nin was saying like, the whole point of the game is to win tournaments, like nothing more. Like
that's all it is, right?
That's all it is. Like people care about wins in death matches and casual games because of their ego.
And this is where you told me that some players didn't play Tekken because it gave them joy. They played Tekken to win, and the winning gave them joy.
No, I wouldn't really say it like that. Everyone was having kind of fun there, but there was this 50-50 kind of thing that if they knew that Tekken would never become an esport, like profitable and all that stuff, then they would probably quit and try another game or get a normal job, you know. For a lot of the top players, they had this like long sight, like, yeah, I'm gonna get sponsored, I'm gonna get my official professional license, because they have that.
Exactly. This is gonna transform into a career. If it doesn't have a potential to do that, I'm just gonna quit.
Yeah, it was. I wouldn't say it's completely like that, and I think maybe if they would have tried to quit, they wouldn't have been able to, like, because they would have enjoyed it so much.
Yeah.
But yeah, some people were kind of struggling with they were noticing that their level was dropping because they weren't enjoying the game as much, and this was an issue for them. Like they had to find a way to enjoy the game more, but yeah, like you have to remember, these people are very kind of eccentric. Like I consider them all my friends, but they are very special. Like there's a reason they're so good at the game. They don't think like normal people.
You would say that the top players, they are quite the, in one way, like that genius syndrome, where you're brilliant at something, but you can be a bit special or awkward.
Yeah, I would say that, except JDCR. JDCR is just like the most normal person ever.
Yeah, I mean, I've said it a million times. He's so approachable. Like,
And I definitely don't mean this in any bad way.
No, I don't either. It's just sometimes someone can be a bit special, and it doesn't have to be bad.
Right, exactly. So, but yeah, that is something you could kind of tell with the absolute top players there, the 10 top players. They all had a specialty, and the other players, they didn't. They were really good, but they didn't have this specialty. So, for instance, like me had his taunt get-upper, or just his defensive Brian style, you know? That no one could copy. Like people tried, but no one could copy it. People were even struggling to backdash and sidestep the way me did. Like they would look at stuff in slow motion, and they still couldn't replicate it in practice mode. So it was kind of at that level. And JDCR, it was like the fundamentals. Like no one can play that aggressive and that defensive and be as successful. Like people get hit. People usually fall for a throw or two, but he broke every single throw. You know? So that was a specialty of him. And some other player had this other specialty, something that that made them unique. So actually in one tournament I was talking with Rain, and I was asking him about a player, and he was like, yeah, he's very good. He's actually just as good as us, but he doesn't have a specialty, so he's never gonna compete with us, you know. And it was kind of sad to see, because this player was like so good at everything, but he didn't have that unique thing. Nice, nice, perfect for that guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was important to have a specialty.
Yeah, and that's also why these top players, they developed their own view of Tekken. They all had this like unique perspective of what Tekken was and how best to play it, and they didn't agree with the other people, and they had like strong disagreements about basic stuff, which also gave them kind of a confidence, because then they were like, wow, all these people, they don't understand how much better my style is, so I'm just gonna like become better at it, and then I'll prove them that this is the ultimate style, you know.
Exactly. So as we mentioned before, just please go into bigger detail on the different mindsets all of these Tekken geniuses had, you know, on what the optimal way is to play Tekken.
Yeah, well,
also Nee, I guess, what Nee told you
yeah,
at his
sure,
place.
yeah, right, we entered that story. So I was in his place, and he was telling me his minds, like how he viewed Tekken, right?
Yeah.
And
but this is very interesting. I mean, Nee is a legendary Tekken player. He's still extremely relevant because he's dominating the scene at the moment. So, and not a lot of people have any insight into what his, what's his vision of the game. So it's very interesting what Mr. Max is gonna share with us now.
Yeah, and remember that this is my interpretation as well. So, like I said before, when people have talked to me, I just understood instantly what they were talking about. But with the Nee, it was like, wow, this is like really complex and deep. I can't believe that this is how he looks at the game, you know?
Yeah.
So the way it was, so for instance, he took some character, like, let's pick a Kazuya for instance. So, so then he's like, okay, so these are the basic attacks that this character will use, and the mix-ups that he will use, and then you kind of like paint them all in your head at the same time, so you get this kind of like geometrical shape of where all the hitboxes are, you know?
Yeah.
But then you also have to think in time. So the hitbox of Hell Sweep is at a certain point in a certain amount of time, and electric is at a certain point in another amount of time, you know? Yeah. And then using this kind of shape that you have painted in your head, that's how you know how to move against this character.
Okay.
So when you move in this, you make a pattern of movement that counteracts this shape. So when you're moving in that way against this shape, then the only thing that character can pretty much do is to deviate from perfect play.
Okay. And
when you're starting to deviate from perfect play, then you can win with better play, like better perfect play, right?
Okay, we just got a subscription now. It's awesome, but I think that subscription gift sounds like a fucking atomic blast. So if you could just say what you said there in the end again, it's very interesting. But big thanks to Aimer26. Thanks so much for the sub. Love ya.
Yeah. So where was? Yeah. Okay. So you have this shape in your head about how the character, so kind of like how each character has their own shape, and then you make a counter movement strategy based around this, and that way they have to change their attack patterns, and they have to start delaying stuff and sidestep weird and do all sorts of weird stuff to start hitting you, and that's when you can switch back to like the perfect way of playing, pretty much. So I'm sure I didn't understand like 50% of what he meant, but this is kind of what I got out of it. It was a geometrical approach to Tekken, which was really cool, actually.
It's very, very interesting, and I can't say I had heard anything like that before.
Yeah.
So, what is it limited the way a lot of Westerners look at the game, as in just studying the frames over and over?
Well, I don't think it's kind of fair to say that, because we don't have the same opportunity to play other players. At least not in that time.
Yeah.
But now we do. Now we can play online. So this is kind of like evening out the playing field, of course. But I don't know what the scene looks like in Korea today, if it's still as active with the tournaments. But I think they're really suffering due to the PC release. So it's kind of like it's kind of good and bad. I think the good players are becoming even better, but I think the intermediate players are not. I think because the tournaments are not as frequent, and it's just it's really hard for me to tell because I don't live there anymore. But,
right.
But I think the playing field is very different, and I think we're seeing it in the tournaments as well. Like, it would have been unheard of that someone beat JDCR the way Joey Fury did in like the last tournament.
Exactly. I also wanted to touch upon, we have about 15 minutes left. I wanted to touch upon, and as we said earlier, you don't have to go into detail, don't mention any names, but you said that there could be a bit of ego involved in the Korean scene, and I know a lot of people, and myself included, were of the naive impression that the Korean scene, everyone was perfect gentlemen at all times. There were no egos. Everyone very politely applauded after a match, you know, at Tekken Crash, and then everyone was silent. No one criticized anyone. It was basically angels playing Tekken. But yeah, this is not the case. I just felt if you could just give us something about that without going into detail, you know, or mentioning names.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I had a kind of unique position because when I was a good friend of one player, then I was also a good friend of another player, but they were not friends at all. And yeah, it's like they're humans, man. They're not. We see them as Tekken gods sometimes, but they're regular people with regular problems, and they have pride, and they have, you know, they want to be respected and all that stuff. And there's misinterpretations and mistakes and all sorts of stuff. I mean, it's humans, right? And it's a competitive environment. There's a lot of players, which actually makes people group together in different groups, so the dynamic is very different. I would say that I'm surprised there wasn't more conflict and stuff like that. Like, if you go to a smaller community in Europe or something, it's much more, well, nice combo.
Thanks.
Yeah, so I was kind of surprised, but if you think that everyone's friends with everyone in Tekken, no, that's not the case.
But so you actually had a heated sort of drama conflict between two camps in the Tekken scene in Korea.
Yeah, and I think the old school people all know about it, you know. So yeah, I'd rather not go into it, like, because I honestly don't know what happened and stuff. But yeah, I don't think that exists anymore. That big clash, you know. But who knows?
But something that contributed to this was that they see Tekken as maybe not only a game. A lot of the players in Korea, they see it as, I don't want to say like it's their life, but it's like of tremendous importance to them.
Yeah, you gotta remember what the Korean society is like as well. Like, there's an immense pressure to succeed at whatever you do. So
that's the way the Korean culture has that.
Yeah, of course. Like, it's like there's no country with as much suicide in youths as in Korea. It's ridiculous.
Okay.
So it's in their mentality. It's like it's in their DNA to do it properly. You know.
You gotta make it.
Yeah. And in a way, it's kind of like it would be a waste. It's just kind of like a childish waste unless you start making money of it, you know.
Oh God, okay, so it's very natural that, for example, video gaming should turn into a career.
It's hard to say, you know, but my impression was that parents in general want their kids, and especially their sons, for some reason, to really make it and become something. And like, if you have a regular job at a store or something, you pretty much failed at life. You have to have a really high degree work, and the pressure on them is crazy, you know?
Yeah, I mean, that sounds like it could get uncomfortable.
Yeah, definitely. And then they have to get married before like 30, and everything is like there's a set time to when you should do everything, when everything should be done.
So their society is it's actually quite conservative.
Let me just answer this one. Wide awake animal. This dude talking seems worse in Korean scene. Does he know why JDC deleted his Twitch? I don't know. I didn't ask him directly. We're still friends, so we talk online and all that stuff. But from what I understood, he doesn't quite enjoy it so much. Like
he doesn't enjoy streaming.
I think just playing a long time in general is not his thing. He didn't play for long sets in Green Arcade either. He usually just come like maybe once a week or something, like play for a while and then head back home, you know?
Okay.
Like I told you, JDCR is the normal guy. Like, you play video games for a while and then you... Sorry, you were asking something before.
God, I think I lost my train of thought there a bit. We were talking about a bit about the fact that egos and drama existed in the Korean scene.
Right. Yeah.
God, I did have a follow-up question I wanted to ask you there. If you see a question in the chat you want to answer, go for it. I'm gonna think of my question as well.
Okay, if Koreans are conservative. Yes and no. When I was hanging out with Rain, he was like, he had this mentality, like he adored individuality, like he really didn't like the Korean society at all. And whenever he could, he would kind of like share his own unique personal opinion, kind of like that. And it was kind of sad because for me it was like, oh, this is a cool guy to talk with. But I got the impression that some people in the Korean scene thought it was too much, like that he should just like stay in his lane and do what he's supposed to do and kind of like that. So yeah, I understood quite fast that Rain was the kind of guy that you either loved or hated, you know.
Yeah, Maxi, could you please talk a bit about the Korean Tekken scene's first experience traveling to the States and being part of an MLG tournament for the first time?
Yeah, sure.
What happened? What did they learn?
Oh, wow. So, yeah, of course, Koreans have been traveling before that. Like Mad Dog Jin had big tournaments, and Kudans actually won Tekken Tag 1 at EVO, like EVO 2003 and stuff like that, I think.
Kudans?
Yeah, Kudans.
Wow, yeah, that guy has been active for a while.
Yeah. You can actually find Ryan Hart versus Kudans on YouTube. Like,
I've seen it. It's epic.
Yeah. So, yeah, when I was there in Korea, I was like, I thought it was kind of sad that it was so disconnected, like the Korean scene and the Western scene, and they were really curious about how, like, about American players and European players. They were asking me a lot of questions, so they didn't really know anything either, you know?
And you said, well, we have this one guy, the main man, and he's a god.
He did 5 EDGFs and now he thinks he's all that.
Exactly. That's all you need.
Yeah, exactly. Actually, some players recommended you.
Me?
They were like, David, have you seen this guy on YouTube? He's doing like crazy combos. Oh, it was actually Min. Yeah, I'm like, yeah, I know that guy. He was combos.
Yeah, he's a major asshole. Oh, but that's really sick.
Anyway, so yeah, so the MLG experience, it was that I was talking with Rain, and I just wanted to help him as much as I could, you know. So from my point of view, it looked very natural that Koreans should start traveling abroad, which they weren't really doing at that time. So I was like telling him how it worked and told him about Tekken Saibatsu and you know, you could find the forums where people announce tournaments, and then you can just check the prizes and they thought that, oh, but it's so expensive, like even if I win, I'm not gonna win anything. So I was like, you have to understand your position. Like a lot of people, if they can get you to their tournament, they can get like 100 more people to their tournament, right? Because it's such a good branding tool. So you can just talk with them and split the cost, you know? And they were like, oh, really? Is that really how it works? I'm like, yeah, of course, like we can solve everything, you know? So because of their lacking in English skills, and also because they didn't quite realize how good they were compared to the Western players, they hadn't gone this path, you know? So we started exploring it quite a lot with Rain, and we were actually gonna book a ticket to Europe, and right at that time they announced MLG in the US. So so I mean, I don't know how much I contributed to that, but they were like, okay, let's go, let's do it, you know. So Rain and JDC all went to the first event in was it Florida? I forgot. Orlando, I forgot. I don't know. In the US anyway. And yeah, like Rain was very confident, and I was very confident as well. I really thought that they would win.
They were gonna beat everyone.
I really thought so. But there's a lot of stuff to keep in mind. Like they're not playing at home. They're playing in an away environment, and I mean, I mean, I'm not making any excuses for them. The better player definitely won, you know. But I'm just kind of explaining how that this was a very new environment for them, and it was not as easy as they thought. So they definitely prepared much better for the next one, you know.
Yeah, because at their first MLG, they actually lost the top Koreans.
Yeah. Maybe we should take some questions from the audience here. It feels like we're kind of like forgetting them. Some question you want to do, or?
You can go for any question you want, but I also would like you to just go into greater detail on why you think the Koreans had such a hard time at their first big American tournament.
Okay, so let's do a question first. I was wondering, does Tekken have a stronger community now? Asked by Paradise Master 99. Look, I just came back from a long break. I just came back from like a five-year break, but to me it looks huge. Like it's on PC, for God's sakes. Like,
yeah, exactly.
You can stream it on Twitch. Like anyone can stream it. Anyone can make some sort of clip. Like the tournament scene, like with the World Cup, Tekken
World Tour. Yeah.
Yeah, the Tekken World Tour. Yeah, thanks. And like all the Koreans are streaming, and yeah, to me it looks huge. It looks like there's so much new players involved. So it's very exciting. It's very fun to be back, actually.
Yeah.
And yeah. And yeah, what was the next thing? Wow, we have so bad memory.
Yeah, exactly. No, I was talking about like the MLG experience. Because most people watching now, to them it's unheard of that Koreans would lose a tournament, especially, you know, in the old days.
Yeah. Well, I think it's more even now.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I also think it's getting more even. You know, it's like American and European players are finally catching up.
Yeah.
But I mean, if we go back a couple of years, like no one had a chance. No one had a chance.
Yeah, and I would say definitely a shout out to the American player. They're really progressing, getting better really fast. It's awesome. It's really fun to see. Really cool.
So I think as a final question here, Japan has quite the gaming culture itself. Korea has a gaming culture, Japan has a huge gaming culture. Why are Korean players, why have they been dominating the scene and not Japanese players?
I'm not sure they have, actually. A lot of Korean players, especially the top players, were actually like, maybe the Japanese are better. And yeah, but not always. Like some people were very like nationalistic, like Nin, for instance. He was like, yeah, Korea's always, you know.
Yeah,
it didn't matter, you know. First of all, you have to remember that Japan has like 1 million times more players. Like there's, like people don't get it. If you go to Japan, you can go to any arcade anywhere. There's a Tekken cabinet and there's people playing. It's like it's ridiculous. At least when I was there, you know.
It's not the same in Korea.
No, definitely not. Like it's 1,000 times less players. 1,000 times less players. But it's kind of like everyone in Korea has their kind of like they go to school and then for fun they go to the arcade sometime, and everyone knows about Tekken, kind of, you know.
Yeah.
But it's still not like Tokyo. Tokyo, it has an arcade at every block. Korea, it's like a few every train station, but like most of them really suck, you know. Like most arcades in Korea are horrible. Like there's no reason to go there. I would say in Seoul at that time there was about maybe like 5 really good arcades, and in Tokyo there were maybe like, I don't know, 20.
Yeah, I mean Tokyo is just a massive city. I haven't been to Korea or Seoul, but yeah, Tokyo is impressive to say the least.
Yeah, you definitely know what I'm talking about, right? Like it's everywhere.
Yeah. But yes, that's gonna be the first interview. Huge thanks to Mr. ManSWE for doing this. It's as I told you, I think you have a story and some insight that no one else has, literally, like in the Tekken community. It's very, very special what you did.
Yeah, thank you so much for inviting me, and anytime, man. I love to share this stuff and talk about it, and yeah,
we're gonna do this again. Thanks so much, and please just tell us quickly, plug your Tekken Gosu group now.
Yeah, okay, so after I came back from Korea, I was like, so this chapter is closed, but then coming back again, I was like, yeah, I can still take the next step here with the videos and everything. So I did the FTP when that felt natural. I did the YouTube channel when that felt natural. And now we have social media, and we're not using it correctly, you know? So
yeah.
So I kind of want to do it one more time, you know? And this time I'm going to use social media in a way that we haven't used before. So I'm really excited. I have some really big plans on how this is going to work, and everyone is going to win and become a better player, and finally we're going to connect the Asian Tekken scene and the West in a much more intimate way. That's my plan. And if you guys, if you guys want to be a part of this and join this Facebook group that I have created, you can join www.gosutekken.com. So I'm gonna put it in the chat.
Yeah, post a link in the chat. Perfect. So please, guys, check that out. ManSWE has always been incredibly ambitious and passionate about progressing the Tekken scene. So he's back now after 5 years. Who knows what he's gonna do now, but I'm sure it's gonna be like really, really good stuff. He always seems to be one step ahead.
People are saying it's not working right now, so I'm gonna put my other straight to the
yeah, working link is always good.
I love your legs, by the way, really, really sexy.
Ah, cheers. Yeah, I mean, sorry, it's a controller cam, and when I don't have my stick, it turns into
It's a
I don't know, what do you call it? Like exhibition cam? Yeah, it's beautiful.
Awesome. Yeah,
but,
also I have a plan of starting a podcast actually.
Oh, okay.
So I'm officially inviting you to be a part of it.
Yeah, it would be a huge honor. Well, would I be like the very first interview, or will you start with a Korean hotshot?
It's either gonna be you or a top Korean player. It depends on who's the fastest.
Oh, fastest electric. Well, that's me, obviously. So I mean, I start.
maybe.
But that sounds awesome, and I'd love to be part of that. So, like, again, thank you so much for this, and we'll think of some new topics to talk about next time, or we just delve a bit deeper into what we talked about today, because we're very quick in debating these topics, and I feel like each topic you could probably talk a couple of minutes more on.
Yeah, man, I can talk about this for years. And next time, let's promote it. Now that we know that it works, let's promote it a bit better. Like, let people ask the best questions beforehand, and then we can pick them up and do something like that, maybe.
Exactly.
Awesome.
So again, like, thank you so much, Maxi. I'm gonna unfortunately have to hang up on you now, but big thanks for the interview. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, you too, man. And thanks for everyone in the chat for joining and with your questions. Awesome.
Yeah, thanks so much, guys. Okay, take care, Maxi. I'll see you later.
Bye.
Cheers. Cheers. Right, so that was my interview with Mr. LD Maxi. A huge, I can barely talk. Huge thanks to him for doing this. Like, as I said, like, I'm perfectly genuine when I say that. He knows stuff about the Tekken scene, and he has done stuff for the Tekken scene that no one else has done. You know, he has unique insight into the Koreans, and he's the one who introduced me to the Tekken community. Like, if I hadn't met this guy, I probably would not be sitting here streaming. That might not have happened. So, it's really cool. And he got me into combo videos, and that's what I'm still, like, mostly known for, I think. And this interview will be posted to YouTube with the appropriate link to his Gosu Tekken Facebook group. Please join it. He really wants to see that grow, and as ambitious as he is, I think he's gonna turn it into something quite excellent. So thanks for watching, guys.